Sierra Leone has canceled an airport project with China that was estimated worth $318 million. Now, this airport was supposed to be built and finished in 2022. Now, the previous president signed this deal with China, with the new president that came in. His name is Julius Bio. He said, nope, I don't want that airport. And the reason why he don't want the airport, he said it's uneconomical for us in our country. China has been doing what we would call predatory lending. They knew that these nations cannot pay them back, but they give them this loan anyway. They default on their loans and say, okay, well, you know, part of the agreement, you're supposed to give us this road, you're supposed to give us this part of your resources, or an airport or a port, whatever. That's how they was doing it, just straight coming in. And the thing is, what a lot of people are getting upset about, especially with the situation going on in Zambia, where you said that the Chinese are literally running their ZNBC, which is Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, television station, which is supposed to be government ran. They just had also the other day in their local newspaper, part of it was in Mandarin. The people was very upset about that. So a lot of people are paying attention to the soft colonization that China's trying to do in African nations. Now, a lot of people was excited and say, oh, yeah, man, Sierra Leone is catching on, and then they turn around. Well, don't get too excited about Sierra Leone. But the only reason Sierra Leone decided to do this is because there was recommendations from the World Bank and the IMF. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has been in Sierra Leone for the past 3 weeks. They had a team of people there, okay? And now, if you want to know who runs the IMF, you put up a picture. It's a woman by the name of Christine Lagarde. If I'm saying it right, she is a French lawyer and politician. That's who she is. So once again, France, it has somebody at the top of the IMF. But they've been there for weeks. Now, those are part of the West. When you use the West, you mean basically Europeans. And when you say Europeans, you mean all the countries. That includes the United States. They don't want China coming in and getting access to the resources. There's a lot of countries that's being bothered by China. But it's not like the United States are treating Africa any better. It's not that the French treating them better or anybody else treating them better than what China is doing. Now, China is being predatory in their lending and trying to take over, yes. But don't think that the West is not trying to keep on having a good thing going. They've been having for hundreds of years. Now, when it comes to African nations, and this, I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying this, there's no reason for African nations to be poor. Not a single one of those nations should not be poor. That would be like, I'm going to talk about this, I said this before. If you had $100 million in your bank account, that'll be like you having this bank account, you have access to this bank account, you have the ATM, you have everything. It is your account, and you're in a welfare office, you're in a food stamp line, you getting Section 8. But yet you got $100 million in the bank. Most people that find that out will be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you in the food stamp line? Why are you staying in Section 8? You got $100 million in the bank, but that would be like, on top of that, you giving other people an ATM to come pull out of that $100 million that you're not even using, but you in a food stamp line or you in the welfare office. It wouldn't make sense. And that's the same thing with African nations. They have resources that can make them billions and trillions of dollars. They don't need a loan from China. They don't need nothing from the IMF. They don't need nothing from the World Bank. Just sell your resources at market value. But it's like the leaders who's running these nations, it's like, what's so hard to figure that out? I don't understand it. It's like simple. That's why I said sometimes I wish I could go run one of these countries and show them how it's done. It's like, shoot, we'd be Mansa Musa all over again, fooling with me. But the people are suffering due to that every day. Now, they say Sierra Leone is one of the poorest countries in the continent of Africa. But it doesn't make sense because they have resources. Sierra Leone, for instance, and their natural resources have diamonds. Just 1 kilogram is worth over $1 million. Over $1 million. And you're going to get a loan from China. That's $318 million to build an airport. It does not make sense. It's no common sense to say You got something sitting in the ground. All you got to do is extract it, and you get just millions upon millions of dollars. We're not even talking about gold. The last time I looked at gold, gold was what, about a little over $1,200 an ounce. Just those two alone could turn the economy around in these countries. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand it. Like, why Kenya and all these different ones taking loans from China? That's stupid. I mean, I'm just saying that, like, if you don't have leaders who is competent enough to use the natural resources, there are many brothers and sisters in America that you could bring in and help you guys run those countries. Trust me, we will love to help you run those countries and make those African nations the best place ever. Turn them around, make them no different than like America is. And sure, you watch how many people want to come back to Africa at that point once you turn it around. Because the only reason some people hold back from going to African nations is because if you come from a place like this and then go to some places over there, not all, then it's like, well, why? Because you can't take people from a first world nation and take them to some place that's considered third world. It's just not going to happen. But it doesn't make sense for Sierra Leone to be poor when you have those kind of resources sitting in the ground. Doesn't make sense. The IMF shouldn't be telling you anything. You don't need a loan from nobody. None. So Sierra Leone and all these nations, you have to start getting your own resources and selling them at market value. And you don't have to worry about China doing anything. You have to worry about the Europeans. You don't have to worry about nobody. You could have your money. You have an excess of money. You could build up your military. You could protect your nation. You do everything that you have to do just as a country. But when is going to be one president in an African nation to say, I'm going to take the lead in making sure our country is the richest African nation on the continent? Because it's going to have to happen. So Sierra Leone did good by rejecting China, but it came at the council of the IMF and the World Bank. So what are they up to? You know good and well they're not coming to Sierra Leone and saying, oh, I just want to help you and I just want to make sure you... No, you know how it is. They want their hands and tentacles in something else. Start a movement in your nations to say sell those natural resources for market value and have that money for the people, not for those leaders, but for the people, because your nation can turn around literally overnight.